Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Lou here as always, and today's video is going to be 5 things that you can do to win over your clients more than you already are. Now, this is literally for anybody that's already kind of started, got a few clients under their belt, or even those that are actually just trying to find ways to get clients, maybe taking it a little more seriously. But let's jump into this video. Now, before we do, as always, if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, please consider just hitting that subscribe button, give a like to the video, comment what you learned, if anything, what you think could have been added to this list. But more than anything, I would just appreciate your support. So let's jump in. Okay, so number 1, whether you're a recording engineer, a mixing engineer, or mastering engineer, always send the reference out with the limiter, with the loudness kind of pushing towards, I guess, today's standards or a little bit lower. Main reason is that no matter what it is you're doing, a lot of our clients are going to perceive louder is better. Now, I know that's going to throw some people off because even at an early stage, we're always taught, technically in this professional industry, louder is not always better. But we're not talking about delivering to professionals all the time. Sometimes an artist is just an artist. They don't really study up on these things, and that's totally fine. You're not supposed to try to be their teacher. You're supposed to be there to provide a service. And at the end of the day, if they don't feel like they got what they're asking for, you didn't do the service. Now, I'm not saying go in and just squash your dynamics either. Like I said, you don't have to be the loudest, but at the very least, let them know, like, hey, this is the reference. This is not meant to be the final. I'm just looking for your revision notes, if anything. But to be honest, I always send it out as if it is a final. If I can hit goal at V1, let's go. I'm not trying to do all the revisions in the world if I don't have to. Now, once again, yes, I'm not saying that you should always have the limiter on while tracking or anything. No, that's not the case. It's just when you're sending it out. So just number 1 thing, you don't want to underwhelm the client by sending out a mix reference, asking for revision notes, and the first thing they're telling you is turn it up. So number 1, send things out with a limiter. All right, number 2 still applies to anybody that's recording, mixing, or mastering. It's listen to your favorite music before any session or even starting any work, really. Main reason is that we kind of get used to whatever we listen throughout the day, right? If you are driving on the freeway and you're hearing all that noise in the background, once you get in your house, you're really like, oh my God, it's really quiet in here. The sound of the speakers in your car are not the same as the sound of the speakers in your studio. So you should actually get yourself reacclimated every time you've spent an extended amount of time outside of the space you'll be working in. It could be an all new space, but if you were to walk in and just cold turkey start recording, never having listened to the speakers before, never really worked in the room before, you don't really know what you're working with. Now, you can listen to anything, honestly. You can listen to your favorite songs that aren't technically good mixes. They're just emotionally great. Now, what I like to do is I go on Tidal and I pull up, I think it's called something like Lou's Reference Mix Material, and I just pull that up on my phone, plug it into the aux, or if I'm able to log it in onto the computer at the studio, I just do that and listen to my favorite songs. Why? Because some of them are mixed so good that they're mix references, and some of them are so emotionally great that I want to pick up the vibe and figure out how to get there. But if I don't listen to these things going into a new room, it's really hard for me to tell if something is too bright, too bassy or not. Is it the room? Is it the speakers? Is it me? What is going on? So you definitely want to be using these reference mixes as a way of kind of gauging where you're at. If you guys want a copy of that playlist, just know that it's on Tidal. I'll put it down in the description for you guys to kind of click on. Last thing to note with referencing is, honestly, you're going to want to actually use some type of A/Bing even while you're working. If you're a mixing engineer or a mastering engineer, it's really important to actually have these reference mixes, especially if you're trying to hit a goal for a client and they said, hey, I really like how this song sounds. So a really fun plugin for that is actually Adapter's Metric A/B. It allows you to load up to, I believe, 16 tracks into it, and you can actually reference them in many different ways, but it also lets you apply meters to every single one of them with just one plugin. So honestly, Adapter's Metric A/B, one of the best investments you can ever make as any engineer at any level. Okay, so number 3, this one's really important, and it's don't monitor loud. Like, I understand that everybody always talks about like, oh, well, you could feel the music more when it's louder, or I have a harder time listening when it's really quiet. I'm not saying go dead silent, and I'm not saying don't like really turn up your speakers to a comfortable level. I'm really just saying that ear fatigue is gonna get in the way. The reason that ear fatigue is actually really important to be mindful of is because it actually changes the response of your ears. Your ears will actually listen to transients different. It'll actually have a different tonal balance. And the longer you stay in that ear fatigue, the more you start noticing that you feel the need to push certain things that once you listen to the next day, you're like, what was I thinking? What's really sad is that this is also kind of a telling sign for a lot of upcoming engineers. If you're looking to be taken more seriously and you're in the room with some veterans or people who have been in the industry for a long time, they usually don't want their engineers being the ones blowing up the room. They actually want engineers that take their hearing seriously, that they actually want to make sure that the engineer is paying attention to the smaller details, and they know that monitoring loud has never really proven to be the best solution. Now, this can be taken in any kind of way. I'm sure there's gonna be a bunch of people that start hitting me up saying like, well, what about this? What about that? I've heard so-and-so say this. For situations where you're in the room and you're not really fully in control of the volume of the actual monitors, let's say you're in a production session and all the producers just feel like they produce better when it's loud. Okay, no worries. Just pop on some headphones and turn the volume all the way down. Just try to protect your hearing, try to go outside, take an ear break, go say you're gonna get some water and take a 5, as long as they're producing and they're good and they're doing what they gotta do. Just try to keep your ears safe, because let's say that later that night they're saying, hey, we want you to mix these couple beats. Okay, your ears are fried, now what? Like, let's hope that they don't wake up the next day and be like, what did the engineer do? So once again, to recap number 3, I'm just saying, keep the monitors at a comfortable volume. It's okay if you push them for a little bit. It's okay if you turn them up loud once in a while. Just try to keep your ears safe. Okay, so now we're moving on to number 4, which is having your own personalized template for organization and for workflow purposes. Forget about the sound, forget about the template that Drake uses or TZO uses for Chris Brown or whatever. If you're not paying attention to the organization, that template is useless. Now, I know that there's a lot of people out here that sell templates and that they do that. I'm not shaming them for what they do. To be honest, if it helps you and it works for your sound, by all means, use it. But the reason I make such a big emphasis about organization is because as a professional, if you're taking somebody else's work and just calling it prime, then you've never actually really learned how to actually approach the situation, why it works the way that it does for yourself. It's really important that you actually learn how to make these templates yourself from scratch, just so that you actually have a fundamental understanding of why it works the way it does, and to see how it actually helps your workflow. You can actually take somebody else's template and actually manipulate it to work for yourself. You can take somebody else's plugins and apply it into your template so that if you like their sound, you can maintain your own workflow. But a template is not something that should be a one and done for everybody. It really rarely ever pans out that way. Now, I know that there's also people who say, oh, templates, ew. To be honest, that's why I make a big emphasis on organization and workflow. The idea behind a template is just so that you don't have to constantly recreate the same tracks, use the same default reverbs that you tend to lean to. You'll always manipulate it, but for instance, I don't want to have to add 24 instances of auto-tune every time I open a new session and then have to manually one by one link the actual channels, so that way I can then do all the change of key and scale and blah, blah, blah. I don't want to deal with all that. Nobody does. So the nice thing is I should be able to load up a new session in less than 1 minute with my template. But why? Because it was designed for my work purposes, how I work with my clients, and what makes the job that much faster at the start and at the end. The templates don't have to just start you off great, but they can also finish off the session really well. Now, part of the template's power is to be able to be kind of impressive to your clients when they're present with you. Sometimes people see you moving through your template, and because you know it so well and it's built so efficiently for your style of work, that people just see you flying through the session. Let's say you're a recording engineer, you're taking those vocals, you're punching them in, you're flying them down, they're like, let me hear that. And within a second, it's already hitting play and you've already got the vocal in lane, you've already did your fades. Perfect. You are now the impressive engineer to that client for a recording engineer. Let's say you're the mixing engineer. You're like, okay, cool. I just need to import the stems, put them where I need to go, and then I can kind of fly from there. Within an hour, you've already surpassed where they would have gone themselves. You are the fast mixing engineer. As a mastering engineer, you're able to load up the tracks and say, cool, this is typically how I like to do my routing and my print process, so that when you actually load up the song, you actually take your listen. You can quickly make your moves. Once those moves have been approved, you can just go through the print print process. And voila, once again, you're going fast. The idea is efficiency and how to impress our clients, is it not? So templates, you got to build one out for yourself. If you need one, you can actually take mine for free. I'll put it in the description. Literally download it, do whatever you want with it, hit me up. I even have a video on how it works and why it works the way it does. It's a full in-depth breakdown, so just check that out. I'll even put a link to it at the end of this video. So this one is free, but there are some paid options that make it a little better, but it's basically automating your workflow. Now, what does it mean to actually automate your process? Now, sometimes it's really just saying, I like to receive my files a certain way. And so when I send out an email, I have a template in my email that allows me to break down everything I need without having to retype word for word everything, without having to relook for links or anything. It's just going to speed up the process of receiving files. There are many other ways of doing this automation for free. Sometimes it's more about finding ways to actually automate shortcuts or how you launch different programs or even plugins. One of the cool things is that there's a company that creates this product called the Stream Deck. Now, the Stream Deck also has an iPad version, which I believe is free, which allows you to basically automate certain processes in your computer. Let's say that you do your monitor control through, let's say, the Antelope Satori. You can actually tell it to launch the Antelope Satori. So every time you hit a button, that app comes in. Doesn't matter what window you're on, it just makes sure that that thing is easily accessible. And the faster you can access your tools, the faster you can do your job. Sometimes automation also kind of comes down to the way you get paid and how you deliver files to your clients. One of the ways that I like to do it, now this is a paid one, is FilePass. Now with FilePass, what's great is that you can actually just pay a monthly fee. I believe it's like $25 a month. I could be wrong. Prices change all the time. But with this, I can actually create a link that actually has the file to the master. They can reference, listen to it, and they can actually make notes. Another way that it automates the workflow is that it actually makes a checklist of all the revision requests that they have. And then once you've actually uploaded the final master, you can actually put a paywall on it at any point so that they can't download it until they've actually paid for your work. Let's say that you're doing stems and everything included, all the deliverables. You can leave the MP3 version up for reference sake and then put everything in a zip file, throw that zip file in that link, and until they've paid the balance, nothing is downloadable. You actually have a very protective automation in place that actually simplifies getting paid, getting notes, and getting the reference tracks to your clients along with the masters. Now, there's a lot of websites online that actually say that they can actually help kind of speed up getting clients and all that kind of stuff. And that's true. There's websites like Sound Better, but there's also like Engineers, which Engineers is made by Mix by Ali and his team. And basically what's going on is that they've kind of found a way to kind of create an online manager for your workflow where clients can actually go on, book you, look at the calendar, set dates, set references. When you get your files, you can actually upload them. You can do revision checks and everything together online, and it really simplifies the workflow. So if you want to find another way to kind of automate your remote work, you should definitely check out engineers.com. Now, one of the last ways you can actually do automation, but this one technically does cost you something, but it's usually a small amount, is having your own website. Now, you could technically do like a free Wix page and all that kind of stuff, and that would make it free. But to be honest, I've never been a fan of having like other brands' badges all over the place, so I tend to do more of the paid route. But if you were to actually have a website that actually explains your policies, your workflows, the different things that you offer, and how to actually activate these projects, you can actually automate the way you actually get and close clients. Now, part of this is that people can go to your website and say, hey, I'm interested in this. You can have a pop-up chat window and say, if you're on my site and you're looking at this and you have any questions, feel free to message and somebody will be right with you, and it can actually send a text to your phone where you can actually respond. Now, there's many services that are free. There are many services that are paid for. The free ones tend to be limited, so you'll eventually have to upgrade. But if you just get these processes going, your longevity in this career is going to be a lot smoother than if you had a bunch of jagged edges that you had to deal with over time. The reason automation, honestly, at the end of the day, becomes so important is because you want to reduce the amount of manual labor. And there's a really funny saying, less manual, more moolah. It's the LMMM for some reason. I don't know who the hell started that one, but I like it because yes, I want to be a lot less manual and I would like a lot more moolah. So you got them. I really hope this video was actually helpful for you. If you have any questions whatsoever, always feel free to hit me in the comments. I try to respond as soon as I can. But if there's ever any kind of questions you want to hit me up with on a personal level, or you just want to connect on social media, all my social media links are in the description, but you can always find me under Mastered by Lou. You can get a free copy of my vocal template, like I said, on my website, or you can just follow the link that's also in the description. Check out the Mixing Music podcast if you're interested in finding more info. We've got almost, I want to say, either just about 200 episodes or more, but honestly speaking, there's so many resources that we've kind of put together at the podcast that you really ought to check it out. Once again, it's the Mixing Music podcast with DK and Lou. I'll talk to you guys soon.